Now it's time for Perspective on the programme, and it is a book that is full of so many different genres. It's full of politics. It's set, in fact, during the rather short 50 days prime ministership of Liz Truss in the UK 2 years ago. It's also a mystery for mystery lovers, a bit of a whodunit, and it's full of comedy as well from one of the world's top novelists. This is The Proof of My Innocence by the British novelist Jonathan Coe. He's here in Paris for a book signing that we'll tell you about right at the end, but delighted to have you with us. Thanks for coming in.
Very 15th.
Thank you. Novel now, if I've added it up properly. Tell us about it.
Well, I wanted to write a political novel, a novel about how, I guess the theme is how the Conservative movement in Britain and on both sides of the Atlantic really has become more extreme, it seems to me, in the last few decades, maybe. So the story actually stretches all the way back to the Reagan and Thatcher years. But the focus of it is a murder mystery, because I didn't want to write a dry political analysis. I wanted the reader to have a good time. So we have a political conference taking place, as you said in your introduction, during the very brief, very strange prime ministership of Liz Truss. And at this conference, a murder takes place. And the hook of the book really is whether the solution to the murder is a political one, whether it's politically motivated, or whether there's something even stranger going on in the background.
I mean, it sounds incredibly intriguing, bringing all these things together. And there's also a story which has been rumoured or talked about for a while, the potential selling off of the NHS, the British health system, to the Americans, which comes into it as well, yeah?
Yeah. You know, the British National Health Service, one of the glories of our welfare state, created in the 1940s, you know, has been struggling against, you know, mismanagement and underfunding for many, many years. There are always theories circulating that, you know, it's going to be increasingly privatized, that American big pharma companies are kind of waiting in the wings to get a toehold there. And yes, that is one of the narrative strands that is kind of teasingly offered as a possible solution to the murder mystery.
How on earth do you weld it all together, if you like? I mean, there's the political story, there's amid that, as you said, very strange period of the Liz Truss prime ministership. You've got the murder coming in as well, and an awful lot of satire too.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm 63 now, and as you say, I've written 15 novels. I've just realised that I don't have many skills in life, actually. I just have a skill somehow for putting complicated stories together in my head. People always say when they read my books, you must make loads of notes, you must have charts up on the wall with the characters' names and that kind of thing. I don't actually do any of that. You know, I just use a simple word processing program, and the rest of what is in the book is something I just kind of carry around with me.
Well, it's nice to know that it's not as complicated as perhaps you might think it might be.
It is quite complicated, but you know, as a reader, I get a kick out of this, and particularly from crime fiction, because I have great admiration for crime writers. It's actually one of the most demanding forms of writing, I think, because you know you have to deliver. If you're going to tease the reader with that narrative curiosity, if you're going to hold out the possibility of a solution to some great mystery in the early chapters, then you've really got to deliver. You can't just kind of shrug your shoulders at the end of the book and say, well, we don't really know what happened here. You have to, you know, offer satisfaction, basically.
Our guest booker, Sammy, who booked you, is a big fan of yours. He's not British at all, but what he loves about the books is the kind of, what he says is the British humour. I mean, do you think that manages to translate? I mean, a lot of your books, of course, have been translated to many languages around the world. What do you think is special about the British humour, and how does it work across the rest of the planet?
Yeah, I mean, I've really noticed this in the last few years, that my books are becoming more and more popular in France and Italy, and the thing that readers always talk about is the sense of humour. You know, I think people find the British intriguing in so many levels. I think particularly after Brexit, because to the rest of Europe that looked like such an eccentric decision. And of course, that campaign was driven by a political figure who soon afterwards became Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who made humour his kind of trademark and his kind of political modus operandi. I would caution other European countries to be a bit wary of the British sense of humour, because I think we use self-deprecation and self-irony and self-mockery actually to build ourselves up in a strange way. You know, you have that famous image of Boris Johnson suspended on the tripwire with his Union Jack helmet and everything, and it kind of makes him look ridiculous. But it also, you know, that was a very endearing image for a lot of people. And you know, Trump also uses humour a lot as a political weapon. Berlusconi used to do that as well.
Yeah.
So beware of the politician who makes jokes, I would say.
And perhaps not just the British politician, but as you say, that sort of rise of populist leaders across the world who kind of managed to tap into that. Is that something very much you're critiquing within the book?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm feeling a kind of slight sense of relief at the moment in the UK that we have such a boring Prime Minister in a way. He doesn't seem to have a sense of humour and just seems to be a kind of technocrat. And, you know, in Britain, where we've unusually for us had a very unstable period of politics in the last 8 years, 6 or 7 Prime Ministers, I've lost count. You know, I think it's good that politics is becoming a little bit dull again in Britain. It's bad for me as a writer, but good for me as a citizen, I think.
A lot of people have spotted a certain character in the book. This is a character called Tommy Cope. There's only an extra P in there compared to your surname, I notice. Shy chap from the Midlands who turns out to be rather good at writing.
Yeah.
It's obviously yourself?
Well, this is a very playful book, and several of the characters in the book, actually, are based on myself in one way or another. But I thought I would throw an extra kind of curveball at the reader and just make one character who is obviously me, because he almost has the same name as me and he has exactly the same background as me. And part of the book is a reminiscence of my time at Cambridge in the early 1980s. And to research this, I dug out a book of short stories that I'd written when I was a student. And I was so horrified by what I found there, you know, the kind of self-dramatization, the adolescent self-dramatization, that I thought I would, you know, basically make fun of myself as directly as I could by having this character in the story. He's not an important character, but you know, like many of the characters around the edges of the book, he's there for humour, because it's very important to me that, as well as being intrigued by the story, that readers laugh when they're reading my books.
And from a personal point of view, I mean, has writing kind of not saved you, but been your defining, you know, thing that you've done? I mean, obviously it is professionally, but in your own mental state and everything, is it the thing that has brought you joy and satisfaction in your life?
I guess it has, and increasingly it's not the. I don't look back on my old books, but you know, I guess I used to be a little bit sceptical about the idea of writing as therapy, but in a way I think that's what it is. You know, we're living in a very fast-moving, very confusing world, and we're all trying to make sense of it. And those of us who write are very lucky, I think, because we have this tool to help us to process experience, and recent political experience is what I've started to address in my books. And yeah, you know, I finished these books with a little bit of a sense that I understand the situation a bit better, and hopefully can pass some of that on to the readers.
Okay. Book signing later on. Where's that?
That's at Smith & Son on the Rue de Rivoli.
Okay.
5:30.
There you go. Well, if you're in Paris, Smith & Son,
Come
Rue
along.
de Rivoli at 5:30 this afternoon. Jonathan Coe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to have
Been a
you with us
pleasure.
on the programme today.